guys, welcome to my top tips for life. I am Nalini Tranquim. I'm a Christian certified life coach, and today I have the privilege of interviewing an incredible woman. She is the CEO and founder of the Working Women's Food in California. She has an incredible heart to gather people around the table. She's amazing, and we are going to be speaking specifically today on the topic of permission. We spend the predominance of our childhood life seeking out permission from those who are in authority over us, be it a teacher, be it a parent or a guardian. And then we transition into adulthood and now have to start making decisions for ourselves. And for some of us, we are left in this place of feeling as though we still need to seek out permission for what is on the inside of our heart. Well, we're going to be delving into that today. So let's get into it. Hello, Patsy Gamboa. Look at you. We are color matched.
We are color matched.
Wow.
This is a scarf I got in Amman, Jordan.
I love it.
I'm pretty sure Yasser Arafat wore it at one point or
another. 100%. Well, it looks much better on you than I think it would have looked on him. So we had a brief conversation this week.
Okay.
I said to you, I think I really do need to get you onto my little talk show where we talk all things life. And you said, yes, I've got one thing I want to bring to the table, and it's on the topic of permission. And I was like, that is exactly what we need to talk about today. So I kind of just actually want to hand over to you. But by all means, just introduce yourself. Let us know a little bit about who you are and what you do. And then let's divulge into this topic of permission.
My name is Patricia. I go by Patricia almost in every format. But very quickly, people realize it's Patty. Born and raised in the Philippines, eldest of 5 kids. Moved to the United States when I was 20. Which was a long time ago. I'm not going to say how long, because people can do the math on my age. Have been an entrepreneur my entire life. I'm a chef by trade, so I went to culinary school. I did the whole bit, but I'm an entrepreneur through and through.
And you've just started this new business venture. I mean, I know I say just started, but actually it's kind of been bubbling in the undercurrent for quite a long time.
Quite a long time.
Yeah.
It's called Working Women's Food. And we help very busy individuals figure out weekly menu planning and grocery shopping.
Love it.
I make friends very easily these days. They're like, really, how? And
so when we spoke the other day, you straight away said permission. So firstly, why did that come just like that to the table? Let's start with that.
Permission has been something that's really been top of mind for me. I think comes out of 2 things. So most recently, the United States just had our elections, and about a month before I voted, I applied for a business line of credit for my company.
Right.
And it was as simple as I knew who my bank manager was. Like, I know her by name, I have her phone number, I have her email. I shot her an email, and the only thing I said was, I need to get a loan for $50,000. That's the only thing the email said.
Right.
And she writes back to me, well, do you want a loan or do you want a line of credit? And I'm like, oh, okay. So we go through this process with her. And when I finally put in my application for the line of credit and, like all the documentation, and it's COVID, so everything's got to be done online. When I hit submit and all that, I had a moment to think about, it was only in 1972 that women were allowed to do that in this country.
Wow.
So women were only really allowed to borrow money for any reason whatsoever in their own name in 1972. I was born in 1980.
Wow.
So that's how recent that was.
Recent.
Okay, I just gave my age.
You gave it away, girl. Right. You just gave it away.
And the thought that I had was, how incredibly lucky am I that I didn't have to bring my dad to the bank so that he can vouch for my business acumen that I will at some point pay the $50,000 back.
Right.
Because I have a business plan. I know what I'm doing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I have a history of I have a history of profitability, you know, like,
Yeah.
and so that to me was pretty amazing. And it made me stop. I think, what else is there that I don't have to ask for permission for anymore?
Wow.
And I think
Wow.
what's happened is that we women have a knee-jerk reaction, a cultural conditioning, where we won't bring ourselves to the table, speaking of the table, because we're waiting for someone to either invite us or to allow us in.
Yeah, but you know what? I think it even applies to the men. I know even for
Mm,
Sandro, you know, being the father of two boys,
yeah.
he's had this like real prominent sense to ensure that he is distilling in his boys, his growing men, that they have got what it takes. and
Mm-hmm.
and I remember when we had this conversation last week, I said to you, isn't it interesting how you go from living under the need to get permission from mom and dad your whole
Mm-hmm.
childhood life,
Yeah.
to suddenly you're an adult and you now need to make decisions for yourself and there's no one to
Yourself.
get permission from.
Right. Yeah. And we lean on our cultural conditioning, we lean on our biases, we lean on what is safe because
Yeah.
we feel that we sort of need a gatekeeper to tell us that it's okay, you can pass through to the next stage.
Yeah.
But what if we just shifted our paradigm a little bit and said, but I am the gatekeeper? Who
Yeah.
else is
Wow.
there?
Yeah.
I believe that we are all very significant beings. I mean, we are the only beings in the animal kingdom can stop and reflect on what happened yesterday
Right.
and dream about what we want for tomorrow.
For tomorrow. 100%.
Cows don't have that, last
No.
I checked. Um, and it's this idea too that if we even took that a little bit further, we are the only beings, man and woman, that will have to, culturally speaking, we have one way or the other to give a eulogy
Mm.
or a tribute to somebody who has died. And
Yeah.
isn't that a way for us to make a defense for someone's life?
Mm.
Like, this person's life matters, so I, who loves this person, am going to do that. And
Yeah.
it's this,
Wow.
I think it's this place where um, we get to do that because we are thinking, believing, and action driven beings. If at the end of the day one of my loved ones is going to stand there on a pulpit somewhere and honor my remains and honor my memory,
Yeah.
wouldn't I want to give them something worth
Wow.
defending my life over? And
Wow.
wouldn't I want to give them something that I decided and not that somebody had decided for me?
Wow.
I mean, somebody's going to go and defend my end of life anyway. You know, it's part of culture. And no matter where you are, in whichever corner of the world you are in, it's part of humanity's makeup to honor somebody when they died. And wouldn't you, as
100%.
the person's deceased, give the person who's honoring you reason to do so?
I mean, can you imagine if the eulogy was, and here lies Nalini Tranquim, who did nothing because she was waiting for permission?
In so many words, yeah. Instead, you are musician,
Yeah.
artist,
Yeah.
creator, author, wife,
Yeah.
mom, friend, a world traveler, church builder. I can keep going.
Yeah.
I just don't have
Yeah.
enough fingers. So it's,
Yeah.
like, you made all of that.
That's right. And it had to come with making conscious decisions.
Yes,
And with
absolutely.
that comes then the need to embrace the risk of mistake, the risk of error, the risk of failure.
Yes, fear, uncertainty.
Yeah.
I think it's almost this thing that just go for it.
Yeah, I
Don't
agree.
overcomplicate things. Like, I once saw this meme on Instagram, and it was like the picture was "Don't feed the bears," and then underneath the caption said something like, "When you feed your thoughts, you're feeding the animals. You know, this idea that like,
Wow.
it's so funny. So like, don't feed the animals, don't feed your thoughts, you know,
Yep. Yep.
don't, it's almost adding fuel to the fire. And
Yep.
yeah, so this permission,
Wow.
this place really comes from somewhere inside.
Yeah.
And when we practice our internal locus of control, like agency,
Yep.
that thing where you says, if I go over there, I'm going to discover something good, bad, or
Yep.
indifferent,
Yep.
and it's going to be meaningful. That's when life gets interesting.
Yeah. Wow.
I mean, it's one death per person. You might as well make your funeral
Exactly.
interesting.
Exactly. Make it count. That's exactly
Right.
right. So what
Right.
do you say to the person who has lived their whole adult life,
Mm.
regardless of how long that is, waiting for that sense of permission, who's been so caught up in just settling for the status quo, tolerating life, survival mode, simply
Mm.
because they don't feel like they've been granted that permission within themselves. What do you want to say to that person today?
I'd ask a couple of questions. So I think one of the questions that I would ask is, who are you right now?
It always seems to boil down to that one question. Yes, and you've
Right.
hit the
I
nail on
think,
the head.
right. Who are you right now? I think that's one question. And then the next question is, where do you want to go?
What do you want to do? Where do you want to go? Exactly.
Um, and then from there, I think we've got something good in our hands once we get like some good answers to those two things.
Yeah, I agree.
Because permission always usually comes from a place of authority,
Yeah.
right? So it's this, can I take more responsibility? You go ask for a boss if you can take more responsibility, right? Can I pursue another career? Would be like a family, you know, instead of asking your family's blessing, you would
Yeah.
go to them and ask for their permission. Well, what if they say no? You're going to stay stuck there?
Well, exactly. Especially for the child or the now adult who's grown up with, you're going to be a doctor because I was a doctor, your grandparents were doctors, you're therefore going to be a doctor.
Right. So I think my, again, question to them is, says who? So we got to put like the identities of those people who this person is asking permission from. Like, who are these people?
Right.
You know, and do they matter? And how do they matter?
Right.
You know, and I think it's such a deep-seated thing for us because we live in culture, and the irony of it is we make up culture. So whether we like it or not, we are living these norms and we are following some sort of status quo because that's what culture is. We take part in it, we contribute in it, and the same thing as well is that it makes us.
That's right. That's exactly right.
You know, so I think that it's really one of those things where you have to take a step back and say, what am I taking a part in? Who am I in this process?
Yeah.
And what kind of difference do I have to make?
Yeah.
Because going counterculture is never easy and it's not advisable.
Yeah.
Because you're just literally setting yourself up for setback and uncertainty and heartbreak.
Right.
But it is one of the most beautiful things when you get up and you say, I'm going to swim upstream.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, it really, really is. You know, and it's one thing. Okay, so it's one thing to be purposefully hard on yourself or to make it harder on yourself than it has to be. I think that's one thing. Like, you got to be, you have to have some wisdom to know that I am going to go against the grain this way, but I'm going to set up my environment in such a way where it's easy to take on the discipline.
Yeah.
The decisions that I've made are set up nicely around me. There are people who will support me in this.
And that's very important, 100%.
Very, very important. So yes, you can go against the grain. Yes, you can absolutely swim upstream. No, you don't need anybody's permission. But you have to practice some wisdom in doing it.
Absolutely.
you're almost you're asking for it to be a little harder than it has to be.
Yes,
That's
absolutely.
just
But the rewards outweigh the risk.
always, always,
Always.
always. Yeah,
Yeah.
always.
I know for some people, they're going to be watching this and they're going to say, yeah, but Patty, the people who um, I'm seeking the permission from, or the people that I had to seek permission from my whole childhood. And quite often that is a parental figure, right? A
Hmm.
guardian or a mum or a dad. And so to just, say, well, do they really matter? Yes, they matter because their words carry weight. But I have to say this. My dad said this one line to me when I left home, and I was 18 years old, jumped on an airplane to London from Africa, which was completely out there. But this one line he said to me has stuck with me throughout. And it was, Nalini, when you leave home, you take the best of what mum and dad brought to the table
Mm-hmm.
and you leave the crap. And that, for me, I felt like in a way gave me that permission to choose and to make
Mm-hmm.
those decisions for myself. And so I just want to say that, I think, to those of you who maybe are waiting for permission, take the best of mum and dad or your guardian, leave the worst of them, and
Mm-hmm.
forge your own path.
Yeah. No, for sure. I believe this, that our parents are two of the most people, or the one person who loves us no matter what.
Yeah.
That is something intrinsic, that is something biological, that's
Yeah.
not something that people make up. You
Agree.
know, the um, the majority, the 99% of it is that your maternal or paternal relationship is the one that will love you no matter what.
Yeah. Agree.
However, they're human,
Yeah. That's right.
and your parents can love you in a way that is unfathomable, but they are also capable of hurting you
Mm.
in a way that some people may never recover from.
Yeah. That's
And
true.
that's a tension. I don't believe that the two are mutually exclusive.
Yeah.
So we are, in as much as we are a product of our culture, we are more a product of those who raised us, good, bad, or indifferent, right?
Yeah.
And to your dad's point, to take the best of what he's given you
Yeah.
and to leave behind what he fell short of.
Yeah.
I think one of the most admirable things a parent can say.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
beautiful.
And to admit their own shortcomings,
Shortcomings, right?
Yeah,
Exactly.
absolutely.
Exactly. And and it's this thing too, that if we don't practice this idea of like asking yourself, hold up, whose permission am I, like, what am I waiting for? Am I waiting for permission? Am I like, and from whom?
Yeah.
And says who? Like that, I think, is enough for you to just pause.
Right.
And you can pause. Like, pausing is allowed.
It's allowed.
Pausing is allowed in every way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
And for you to be conscious about the thing that you're being faced with, whatever it is, right? Look, I truly believe this, that we live out the stories that we tell ourselves.
Yeah.
We
Wow.
just do,
Yeah.
And somewhere in there, the permission quotient had been added to.
Yeah.
When I was growing up, my mom told me that a girl never chases a guy. Like, you never call a boy. I was the only girl.
Wow.
And so I think if my parents could have like kept me under lock and key, they would have, but that's just like not possible. I was a little bit of a willful child. But anyway, and then high school came around, so it was this thing, and college came around. What's really interesting about that, up to today, I will not initiate.
Huh.
Not if you give me $1,000.
Wow.
Not if I thought a guy was really interesting. Would never do it. Wouldn't do it. And it's not that I'm waiting for permission, but it was just something that was instilled in me.
Instilled. Okay. So I wonder how much of our childhood has been instilled that is still affecting that decision-making process for our tomorrow. So that might be a really good exercise for some of the audience to take, is to actually just do a stock take on, okay, but where are these programmings coming from?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
is it something that I want to hang on to in my tomorrow? Or is it actually time for me to let go, draw a line in the sand, and start something new?
You know, absolutely. Viktor Frankl, who's one of my favorite psychologists and authors,
Yeah.
in his book, Man's Search for Meaning, talks about living your life as if you've already lived it.
Wow.
So he suggests that, I mean, and he's had a horrific journey going through the Holocaust and everything that he lost through that.
Yeah.
And yet, even through all of that loss, he turned it so powerfully for the benefit of others, right?
Yeah.
He was the one who sort of so he came about during Sigmund Freud's era. And
Yeah.
Freud said that we are after pleasure. And Viktor Frankl said, I think not. He goes, man ultimately is after meaning. And when he doesn't find meaning, he just goes and hits pleasure or something like that. Like he didn't say it like the same way I'm saying it, but sort of that way. And Viktor Frankl said that we should live our lives like we've already lived it. So it's this practice that it's never perfect because stuff happens, you know, and we get distracted and look, the days are long, the years are short. I mean, it's actually the middle of November now.
I know.
Right? So it's this thing where if we just sat down for a little bit in the morning and said, if I were to live this entire day again, what would success look like? How would it be meaningful?
Wow.
And you'll be amazed at what would happen through all of that. And, you know, and going around sort of that one idea in terms of reflection, you can stop and like, well, if today, I applied for a bank loan because I need it.
Yeah.
You know, whose permission do I need?
Yeah.
Turns out no one.
Patty, thank you so much. You have brought gold to the table. I reckon this is a video that people are going to want to tune into a couple of times because there's just so much value in here. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So those of you who are waiting for permission, come on, kid. Enough already. You've got what it takes. Just live the
That's who.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. Thanks, Patty. So good. I really appreciate you, babe.
Good to see you. All right. Thanks, everyone.
How amazing was that? I really hope that today has left you with the sense of, I don't need to wait for permission. I can just get out there and do what is on the inside of my heart. Right, if you have been struggling with anything to do with what we've discussed today, why don't you lock in a free 30-minute discovery session with me? The details are in the description field here. Please make sure you like this video, subscribe to my channel, and be sure to turn on notifications so that you don't miss any future content. All right, I love you. I'll talk to you soon.